You know, usually when we talk about a highly successful, fast-growing company, there's this like expectation of a perfectly calibrated machine.
Oh, totally. You picture this massive gleaming engine with thousands of gears.
Right, all turning flawlessly together in, perfect harmony.
A system where every single part plays its precise engineered role to keep the momentum going.
Exactly. But then you actually peek behind the curtain of some of these organizations, and suddenly the illusion just completely shatters. You realize it's not a synchronized machine at all. It's actually just one incredibly exhausted person, drenched in sweat, furiously pedaling a stationary bicycle, somehow powering the entire factory.
That is the perfect visual.
Right.
Because it's an incredibly common reality, actually. And when you finally see it, it fundamentally changes how you understand corporate success and failure, really.
Well, welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're unpacking this really fascinating piece of research titled, "Is It Still the Age of Heroes?"
Yeah, it's a great read.
It is. And we want to figure out exactly why companies are so utterly obsessed with these exhausted bicycle riders. We are looking at hero employees.
Those workplace rock stars who seem to just carry the whole company on their backs.
Exactly. And our mission today is to understand why relying on them is actually a ticking time bomb, and how modern workplaces are desperately trying to shift away from this model.
It's such an essential shift, too. We're going to look far beyond the surface of, the standard employee of the month plaque.
Yeah, we're getting into the deep stuff.
Right, to understand the psychology, the economics, and the really severe structural vulnerabilities at play here.
So I want you to think about your own workplace for a second. Have you ever worked with one of those untouchable rock star employees?
Or maybe you've felt the intense crushing pressure to be one yourself.
Oh yeah, that's a huge factor.
Yeah.
Well, stick around because this conversation is going to completely change how you look at your team dynamics.
Let's start by defining exactly what we mean when we use the term hero employee.
Okay, lay it out for us.
Because we aren't just talking about someone who meets their quarterly targets, or just has a good attitude.
Right. To be a true corporate hero, you have to hit 3 very specific criteria based on the research. First, your output isn't just good, it is consistently massively above average.
Yeah, exponential output.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Second, you are the person basically kept under glass with a sign that says, "Break in case of emergency."
The crisis solver.
Yeah. You are the one frequently called in to solve the absolute toughest hair-on-fire problems. And third, you are highly visible.
Right, you become the literal face of the organization's success, both internally to other staff and externally to the public.
And the business rationale for cultivating these individuals isn't just like managers playing favorites. There's a cold, hard calculus to it.
Oh, absolutely. Look at the 2022 McKinsey study, the one focusing on high-growth tech firms.
Yeah, the data in that was wild.
It really was. It showed that the top 10% of employees contribute roughly 40% of the total value creation.
Wait, hold on. I'm stuck on that number.
It's big.
10% of the people are creating 40% of the value. That is a staggering multiplier. How is that even mathematically possible in a standard corporate structure?
Well, it brings us to a foundational economic concept called the resource-based view, or RBV.
Okay, RBV.
Right. And this theory argues that competitive advantage comes from resources that fit the VRIO framework. VRIO.
VRIO. Okay, let's unpack this. What does that stand for?
It means they are valuable, rare, inimitable, and organized.
Valuable, rare, inimitable, organized.
Okay. And a hero employee fits that perfectly. Their skills are obviously valuable, and finding someone else with their specific drive is rare.
Sure, that makes sense. But the inimitable is where the magic and I guess the danger happens.
Exactly. Inimitable just means impossible to copy.
Right. So give me a real-world example of what that actually looks like in an office setting.
Well, it's the person who built the massive, complex spreadsheet with 50 custom macros that runs the entire supply chain.
Oh, I know that guy.
Right. Only they understand how it works. If they get hit by a bus or poached by a rival, the company can't just hire another person to run it.
Because the knowledge essentially dies with them.
Exactly. Nobody can imitate what they do. And finally, the company organizes entirely around this person to extract that unique value.
It's exactly like sports.
Oh, great analogy. Yeah.
You have a star quarterback who generates outsized wins, and they attract better free agents because everyone wants to play with a winner.
And they sell all the jerseys.
Exactly. They are a revenue multiplier, They bring incredible speed and agility to the game, and they generate what the research calls creative capital.
Which is that exceptional cognitive expertise that leads to totally novel innovations.
Right. But here's my question. Does the quarterback model actually work in a corporate office?
See, the sports analogy works brilliantly for understanding value creation, but it completely fails in execution.
Really? How so?
Because a football team plays once a week, right? For a few months a year, and then they have a whole off season to recover.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
In a corporate office, you're handing the ball to your star quarterback 50 hours a week, 52 weeks a year.
There is no off season.
None. And eventually their arm falls off.
Yeah.
But before we get to that burnout phase, we really have to look at how organizations actively manufacture and maintain this hero status.
Because management is totally terrified of losing that 40% value creation.
Exactly. They are desperate to keep it.
So they build golden handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
The tactics they use to keep these people are so deliberate. If you look at how the big players operate, they have basically constructed a massive, sophisticated machinery to create and highlight these corporate rock stars.
Oh, absolutely. You've got public recognition, for one, like Google's Spotlight videos.
Right, where they specifically showcase engineers who cracked impossibly hard problems.
Yeah. And then you have extreme career acceleration. Look at Amazon's leadership ladder.
Where individuals get dubbed distinguished engineers.
Yes. And they get to jump straight into senior leadership, just completely bypassing the usual corporate slog.
And beyond just money or promotion, the ultimate lever seems to be autonomy.
Autonomy is huge. Look at Atlassian. They offer this thing called 20% time, where their top contributors are given the freedom to just pursue their own passion projects.
Wait, let me push back on that for a second.
Sure.
From a pure accounting perspective, that sounds absolutely insane.
I mean, it does on paper.
Right. You are taking your most valuable, highest paid employees and literally paying them to just mess around with their own side projects for 1 day a week. How does any CFO approve that?
Well, it sounds crazy until you look at the psychology driving it. It relies on self-determination theory.
Okay, what's that?
It was developed by psychologists Deci and Ryan, and this theory posits that humans have deeply ingrained psychological needs for competence and autonomy.
So it's not just about a paycheck.
Exactly. If you just throw money at a genius, they might still get bored and leave. But when a company says, "We trust your genius so much that we will give you total autonomy to follow your curiosity."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it powerfully satisfies those intrinsic needs. It turbocharges their motivation and loyalty in a way a cash bonus never could.
Okay, I see that. That makes a lot of sense for the hero. But it doesn't just affect the hero, right?
No, not at all.
Because if I'm sitting in the cubicle next to the guy getting his own Spotlight video and 20% free time, that has to mess with my head.
Precisely. And that brings in expectancy theory by Victor Vroom.
Okay, another theory. Hit me.
When the rest of the workforce sees that extraordinary, heroic effort yields massive financial bonuses, public spotlight videos, and fast-track promotions, they are motivated to emulate that behavior.
So it creates a whole cultural narrative.
Yes, it's a modernized great man theory. This deeply held belief that a single charismatic, talented individual can steer the entire ship through turbulence.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Isn't singling out one person inherently dangerous for the broader culture?
It's incredibly dangerous.
You see this a lot in tech history. Like, Apple deliberately positioned Steve Jobs as the sole visionary hero.
Oh, 100%.
And if a company's entire narrative revolves around a single visionary, doesn't that make everyone else feel like they're just, I don't know, a background extra in someone else's movie?
What's fascinating here is that you've just hit on the exact structural vulnerability of this entire model.
Really? The background extra feeling?
Yes. The very levers used to motivate these extraordinary individuals and to supposedly inspire the workforce, they eventually create a massive, fragile bottleneck for the organization.
The dark side of hero culture.
Exactly. When you rely on a hero for your speed, your innovation, and your problem solving, you inadvertently create a single point of failure.
Because they're the ones handling all the toughest problems.
Right, and critical knowledge becomes intensely siloed. So if that hero is suddenly unavailable, whether they are sick, on vacation, or they just leave for a competitor,
projects stall completely.
They do. The gears of that machine we talked about earlier just grind to a halt because the guy on the bicycle stopped pedaling.
Which inevitably leads right back to burnout.
Oh, inevitably.
Because if the company knows the project will stall without the hero, They just keep leaning on the hero.
They have to, or they think they have to.
Right. They are over-relied upon. They work incredibly long hours, often with very limited support.
Because management thinks, oh, they can handle it. They're a rock star.
And the irony is devastating. The company pushes them so hard that they end up causing the turnover of the exact asset they were trying so desperately to protect.
It's a completely self-defeating cycle. And while the hero is burning out, what is happening to the rest of the team, those background extras?
Right. Well, average employees start to feel deeply undervalued. They feel unfairly compared to this untouchable rock star. That breeds resentment, an us versus them mentality.
And overall engagement just plummets.
Exactly. Attrition among the majority of the workforce goes up. Teams start to defer every single decision to the hero.
Which stifles collaboration.
And slows down innovation because ideas aren't being cross-pollinated anymore. Everyone just sits around and waits for the genius to speak.
And that environment breeds something incredibly toxic called hero syndrome.
Hero syndrome. That sounds intense. What is that?
This is a behavioral shift where individuals, seeing that only crisis solvers get rewarded, start artificially chasing flashy, heroic tasks purely for the attention.
Wait, really? So they stop doing their actual jobs just to look busy saving the day?
Basically.
Give me an example of how that plays out in real life.
Okay, imagine an IT professional who notices a minor glitch in a server on a Tuesday.
Okay.
Instead of quietly patching it, which is, unglamorous, invisible maintenance work, they ignore it. Yeah, they let it fester until Friday night when the entire website crashes. Then they swoop in, work all weekend, save the company, and get a massive round of applause on Monday morning.
That is wild. They are literally incentivized to let small fires grow into infernos just so they can be seen putting them out.
Exactly. They are holding the system hostage for praise.
Wow. And we can't ignore the equity and inclusion risks here either.
Oh, that's a massive point.
The research highlights that hero selection carries heavy inherent bias. It typically favors individuals who are highly visible, extroverted, or from groups who feel culturally comfortable self-promoting.
Right.
This can totally undermine a company's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. It leaves a lot of quieter, diverse, highly competent talent totally unrecognized simply because they don't bang their own drum.
Which leads to the ultimate fatal flaw of the hero model. The growth plateau.
The growth plateau.
Yeah, you simply cannot scale a business by adding more heroes. True rock stars are by definition a statistically limited resource. So once your organization grows to a certain size, the hero pool is just saturated.
So what does this all mean? It's like, okay, think of it like building a massive skyscraper balanced entirely on a single load-bearing pillar.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. It might look incredibly impressive for a while, but eventually the concrete in that pillar starts to micro-fracture from the sheer weight of the floors above it.
Because it's carrying everything.
Exactly. And because the rest of the building wasn't designed with a distributed foundation, when that one pillar finally cracks, the whole thing comes crashing down.
That is exactly the realization that modern organizations are having today. A skyscraper cannot stand on one pillar.
It just can't.
And because of that, companies are being forced to fundamentally change their architectural design. We are seeing a massive shift from this fragile, hero-centric culture to a modern, resilient alternative.
Which is team-centric performance and collective intelligence.
Exactly. Collective intelligence.
I love that phrase, collective intelligence. But how do you actually fix the skyscraper? How are companies making that shift without losing the incredible value that those top 10% high performers bring?
Well, they are completely decentralizing how work gets done and how knowledge is stored.
Okay, how so?
Instead of top-down commands from a single visionary, we're seeing a move toward distributed leadership. This means decision-making power is spread across cross-functional squads, and they are using collective intelligence platforms, tools like Confluence or Notion to document processes meticulously.
So the guy with the custom spreadsheet macro is forced to write down exactly how the macro works so anyone can use it.
Exactly. Knowledge can no longer live inside just one person's head.
Right.
We also see a heavy reliance on Agile and Scrum frameworks. In those methodologies, there are self-organizing teams where the team itself is the hero.
Oh, that's a great flip.
Yeah. It's about shared ownership of the final product. But for that to work, you need the right environment, which brings us to a really vital piece of research, Google's Project Aristotle.
Right, Project Aristotle. That was a massive internal study by Google to figure out what actually makes a team successful.
Yes, and the results were super counterintuitive.
They really were. Google assumed the best teams would simply be the ones with the highest number of individual geniuses, like a team of heroes.
That was the hypothesis, yeah.
But the data showed the number one factor was actually psychological safety.
Psychological safety. It's so crucial.
Let's make that tangible for the listener. What does psychological safety actually look like in, say, a Tuesday morning status meeting?
It looks like an environment where people feel entirely safe to take risks, to pitch half-baked ideas or admit they made a mistake without fear of being mocked or punished.
So no one is getting their head bitten off for asking a dumb question.
Exactly. When you have high psychological safety, a junior employee isn't afraid to point out a flaw in the senior engineer's plan.
Which is huge.
It is. Because that dynamic drastically reduces the need for a single, heroic problem solver to swoop in. The team is constantly catching and fixing errors together in real time.
Okay, I buy the culture shift. That makes total sense. But practically speaking, how do you handle the money and the rewards?
The compensation question.
Right, because if someone truly is operating in that top 10%, driving 40% of the value, you can't exactly pay them the exact same base salary as someone doing the bare minimum.
No, you can't.
If you do that, your rock star is just going to quit and go somewhere that will actually pay them for their outsized value.
Exactly, and this is where the practical safeguards come in. You have to balance the scales.
Okay.
The modern playbook suggests pairing rewards. You absolutely still give individual bonuses for exceptional outcomes. You have to satisfy that expectancy theory and reward top talent. But you pair it with significant team-wide profit sharing tied to project milestones.
I see. So it balances personal motivation with collective accountability.
Yes.
It essentially says, you did great, and here's a bonus for your individual genius. But you only get the real payout if you help the whole team cross the finish line.
Precisely. It incentivizes the hero to become a mentor rather than a lone wolf.
That is incredibly smart.
And to stop the burnout cycle, organizations are putting in really firm boundaries.
Like what?
Things like strictly enforcing a maximum weekly hour limit, say, capping work at 45 hours a week.
Wow, an actual cap.
Yeah. And providing dedicated support staff, like junior teammates or administrative assistants, to take the low-level load off the high performers. Plus, explicitly offering mental health resources and mandated recharge days.
Now, there is one tactic I was reading about in the sources that really stood out, but I have a huge concern with it.
Oh,
rotating the hero role.
Yes.
The idea is, instead of one person always being the lead, you create hero rotations. You take other high-potential employees and temporarily give them the lead on high-visibility work to build a deep bench of talent.
It's a brilliant way to guarantee you aren't dependent on just one person.
But wait, if I'm the top-performing rock star and management suddenly pulls me off the lead to give the junior guy a turn in the spotlight, aren't I going to feel insulted?
You might initially.
Won't I feel like I'm being benched?
That is the exact friction point companies face, and it really all comes down to framing.
Framing, okay.
You aren't benching the star, you are promoting them to coach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you have to change how you talk about success. You tie the hero narrative to core values and specific behaviors like mentorship or customer obsession or bias for action.
Rather than tying it to a person's inherent charisma.
Exactly. When the rock star is rewarded for successfully guiding the junior employee through the rotation, the success becomes replicable.
Because anyone can learn a behavior. But nobody can learn how to just be Steve Jobs.
That makes total sense. You are rewarding them for building the system, not just for being the system.
Right.
And finally, companies need to rigorously audit this entire process. You can't just set it and forget it.
So how do they measure it?
You use tools like ENPS, that's Employee Net Promoter Score, or the Gallup Q12 survey, to continuously measure team health. You have to ensure that your high performers aren't secretly destroying team morale behind closed doors.
Wait, so when we look at this whole shift, we aren't getting rid of exceptional talent entirely.
No, not at all.
We aren't aiming for mediocrity. We're just institutionalizing the talent.
Yes.
We're taking the magic of the rock star, documenting the heck out of it, and putting strong structural safety guardrails around it so it doesn't accidentally burn the building down.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is exactly what is happening. By identifying high impact but refusing to idolize the individual, you capture the upside while protecting against the downside.
Best of both worlds.
Right. You get the phenomenal spark of exceptional talent, plus the unshakable stability of a resilient, high-performing team.
Wow. Okay, let's take a step back and look at the journey we've been on today.
It's been a lot.
It really has. We started with the incredibly seductive myth of the indispensable corporate rock star. You know, the person generating massive revenue and pulling the rope in a crisis.
The guy on the bicycle.
Yes, the guy on the bicycle. And we looked at the psychological levers like autonomy and public recognition that companies pulled to manufacture these heroes. But then we uncovered the dangerous dark side. The crushing burnout, the toxic single points of failure, the hero syndrome where people let fires burn just to put them out.
And the structural plateau that limits growth.
Exactly. Finally, we explored the modern playbook, where companies are learning to share the spotlight, democratize knowledge through collective platforms, and actively rotate the hero hat to build truly resilient teams.
It is a profound evolution in how we think about human capital and organizational design.
So think about your own workspace again. Look around. Are you relying entirely too heavily on one hero to save the day every quarter?
Or are you actively building a system where absolutely anyone has the tools, the documentation, and the psychological safety to step up when the time comes?
You know, there is a brilliant rephrasing of an old Andy Warhol quote in the research that captures this perfectly.
Oh, I love this quote.
It says that in the modern workplace, everyone will be a hero for 15 minutes.
It really sums it all up.
I love that. And it leaves me with this final lingering thought for you to mull over today. If the modern workplace is meticulously designed to systematically rotate these high visibility roles and democratize all the knowledge so that everyone truly is a hero for 15 minutes, well, does the concept of an individual hero even exist anymore?
That's a great point.
Or have we finally evolved into a true collective intelligence where the ultimate hero isn't a person at all, but the system itself?
A truly fascinating question to leave on.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. And remember, the next time you see a beautifully synchronized factory, make sure you check to see if it's actually gears turning or just one exhausted person on a bicycle. We'll catch you next time.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. Please feel free to click on the link in the description below to discover more podcasts.